Juraj Slafkovsky just had his best game as a Montreal Canadien, and despite the loss, he was everywhere, he was winning puck battles, and most importantly, he was finally shooting it on net. We'll be discussing him, plus a lot of other players who shone in that game against Vancouver, plus Kaiden Guhle getting some insane praise from a Habs legend, and a really surprising stat about the Habs fourth line, so stick around for all that on this episode of Habs Digest. Now, before we get into the game and Juraj Slafkovsky, you're going to want to stick around for that at the end of the video, but we got to talk about a shocking fourth line stat, and this has a bit to do with the game tonight as well, as it involves a couple of players who played, but not all of them. Take a look. This is Money Puck showing the top defensive forward lines in the NHL, and who's at the top of the list but Pezzetta, Evans, Armia, with an 83.3% expected goals percentage, with 0.3 expected goals against, that's 0.57 expected goals against per 60. All in all, the top defensive line in the NHL, and a lot of you might be thinking, oh, well, they play a lot of sheltered minutes, or they're not up against like the best players. No, that's really not true, actually. According to one commenter, these guys are getting mostly defensive zone faceoffs. And honestly, when you watch the games, these guys really knew how to work the puck. Now, of course, Armia was sent down in favor of Gustav Lindstrom today, and we saw RHP playing today against Vancouver and yesterday against Boston on that fourth line with them. But Pezzetta and Evans, their work ethic is unmatched. There's a reason Jake Evans is out there on the penalty kill. There's a reason him and Pezzetta often have some of the best shifts. In that game against Boston, those guys were everywhere. There was a shift where I swear they had 2 minutes of offensive puck protection in the offensive zone, and that's going to boost your defensive stats if the other team can't even cross center ice. And Armia being on this too is a bit surprising, but I guess not all that surprising too. Like, this guy has played penalty kill, right? Armia knows at least what he's doing defensively. It was more the offensive side that he was really struggling with. But all in all, for these guys who get a lot of defensive zone time, for these guys who are sort of unheralded heroes for the Montreal Canadiens, right? When you have guys like Jake Evans and Michael Pezzetta who can go out there and battle, who can win puck battles, who can dominate a shift, exhaust the other team every single time they're on the ice, that is incredibly valuable no matter what type of team you are, whether you're, maybe going for a lottery pick or whether you're making a push for the playoffs. Those kind of lines are extremely important to any roster, and to see that they are, as of now, small sample size, of course, only about 31 minutes of ice time with those guys, still at the top of the NHL is definitely a sign, and to me, it definitely passes the eye test for a few of them. But let's move on to an actual defenseman that is also good at defending and also good at some offense as well, and that is Kaiden Guhle. And oh boy, did he get some massive praise. Check this out. L'Antichambre posted this on X, and they said, number 21, Guy Carbonneau, will he be retired soon? Kaiden Guhle was asked the question. Now, the reason I'm showing this is that in the interview, Guy Carbonneau basically said, hey, I'm honored that you're wearing my number. It actually really makes me happy that you're wearing my number, and I hope you wear it for a long time in the future. Of course, number 21, if it was to be retired, would Kaiden Guhle have to give it up? And it certainly seems like Guy Carbonneau is giving Kaiden Guhle his blessing to keep the number 21. And that is, I don't know if I want to say surprising, but to hear, Guy Carbonneau, of course, a Habs legend. We all love him. One of the best defensive forwards ever, right? Also a coach for the Habs. He was just kind of doing everything in the Montreal Canadiens organization. He's incredibly well respected. And you got to think, for a young guy like Kaiden Guhle, a young guy who's only 21 years old, a little reminder here, Kaiden Guhle at 21 years, 297 days, became the second youngest defenseman in Habs history to score an overtime goal behind PK Subban, who did it at 21 years, 249 days. This guy is so far really showing that number one, or at least top pairing defenseman potential. Every single game, how many times have you looked at Kaiden Guhle and felt that's a guy who's 26, 27. He's really just kind of dominating the game. That's a very veteran presence. This dude's younger than Caufield. He's younger than Suzuki. He's older than Slav, but not by that much, or just a couple of years. He is so young, but he plays so much older than he is, and that's a really good thing. He also has some of the top, fastest skating speeds in the entire NHL. Everything Kaiden Guhle does is a positive, basically. He can be your quarterback on your power play if you want him to be. He's going to be heads up on the penalty kill. He'll have a nice breakout pass. He's able to score a goal like we saw in overtime, but he'll also lay his body on the line on defense. He's doing everything right, and you got to think that Guy Carbonneau and the rest of the Montreal legends, whoever's watching Kaiden Guhle, certainly see that as well. So it's really cool to see Guy Carbonneau, of all people, give that praise to Kaiden Guhle. And yeah, I'd be at a loss for words if I was him. But time to finally move on to the game, and this is what you've been waiting for. Slafkovsky is an absolute beast. Now, I know Montreal lost the game to Vancouver. We were all hoping after that game against Boston we could come out against Vancouver and really show them what we're made of. the guys look maybe a little more tired tonight. I'm sure they put in a ton of effort against the Boston Bruins. But hey, regardless, Montreal came out with a solid game overall, I think. We're going to have a look at the box score here. Take a look through if you want. Of course, Mike Matheson, Arber, Xhekaj with the goals. Xhekaj with that goal with about less than a minute left. It was a snipe, to be fair, his first of the season. Probably should have been had by Casey DeSmith, who, in his legendary Habs return, completely dominated the Montreal Canadiens. It was like a .964 save percentage. Matheson getting that goal off the scrum was awesome, too. He is continuing his dominant streak. But the guy I wanted to focus on is Juraj Slafkovsky. Now, he didn't really show up a ton on the score sheet, but go look at his name when I flash this up again. If you see Juraj Slafkovsky there, 7, count them, 7 shots on goal, number 1 on the team. Josh Anderson somehow had 6. He was really playing hard tonight. But 7 shots for Juraj Slafkovsky, and as Arber and Basu said, Slafkovsky's, well, this said 6 shots on goal, 10 shot attempts tonight, are each a new career high, and then he later updated that to say 7 shots on goal in 11 shot attempts, because that is what Slav finished with. And if you watch this game, you know Slav passed the eye test tonight. He was everywhere. He is really starting to come into his own, and, you know, there was a first goal when the Vancouver Canucks were up 1-0. The Habs came down and ended up being offside, but now this one was maybe more clear offside. Also, doesn't it feel like it's always Caufield that's offside on these plays? And I also swear it's every single game the Habs get a goal waved off for offside. I digress. But on that play, Christian Dvorak ends up getting the puck after the Slafkovsky zone entry. Slav crashes right to the net, fights off a defender, and jumps in front of Casey DeSmith as Dvorak shoots the puck. He nearly tips it, he didn't tip it, and the puck goes in. It was a perfect shift from Juraj Slafkovsky, something like, we haven't seen that too much, right? He barrels into the offensive zone, wins, like, he gains the blue line, gets in there on his own, dishes the puck off, goes straight to the net, fights someone off, and sets the perfect screen for a goal. We're like, okay, that is, like, what a shift from Slafkovsky. They were showing replays of the Slafkovsky screen on the game feed instead of the replay of the goal or the replay of the eventual offside call during the challenge. But it was just phenomenal to see. And he was just everywhere tonight. Now, is he still making a couple of, ill-advised passes and turnovers? Yeah, I mean, of course he is. He's still very young, don't forget that. And he's still trying to do a little too much with it sometimes. Sometimes you could think he could pass a little sooner, but every single game it feels like he's improving just a little bit. And his zone entries tonight were getting much, much better. But he was just firing the puck, and he had so many chances. He could have had easily a couple goals tonight. Some point-blank chances. There was one right in the slot, and DeSmith had to make a fantastic save, which he did quite frequently in this game. But my goodness, seeing Juraj Slafkovsky out there has been really, really, really special. Now, there's some people critiquing the lines because, of course, Newhook and Anderson maybe don't compliment Suzuki as much as someone like Caufield did, and Slafkovsky, like that Caufield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky line looked really good. Maybe we can put them back together, put Newhook and Anderson with Dvorak. I'm sure Coach Marty's going to test some things out. I think Calgary's the next game, and then it's Vegas and Boston. So some more fairly tough games. Well, at least Vegas and Boston. Well, Calgary, never underestimate him. We'll see. But, man, he has been playing phenomenally. But I am going to move on from him because there's other players we got to talk about too. And I'm actually just going to do something a little different here. I'm going to just pop this up, and we're just going to have a look through the game card. This is on Reddit. Packer Yami often posts these game cards. We're going to have a look at this together. Vancouver Canucks, Montreal Canadiens. Here is the game scorecard here. And honestly, this one tonight didn't really pass the eye test for me. As you guys look at this too, you're probably going to agree. Jake Evans was good. I mean, look at that. Jake Evans, Raphael Harvey-Bernard, right near the top again, right? This fourth line is able to just do lots of things. And look at the defense metric. It's not a lie. These guys are insane defensively. Xhekaj, of course, gets a goal. But, like, the bottom of the list here, Kovacevic, Suzuki, Anderson, and Matheson, all massive negatives. Despite Matheson having a goal and overall having a decent game, I think is good. But I think a problem with this is that there was a weird play where Gallagher lost a skate blade, right? And Slav was on that shift, and then there were some really good chances for Vancouver the other way, so that might be what lowers Slav. But overall, I think Slafkovsky should have been a couple spots higher. Xhekaj scored a goal. I didn't think he was that phenomenal for the rest of the game. There was a lot of things here maybe I disagree with, but all in all, it was I think a very solid game by some players, not so much by others, right? Like, whoops, what am I doing? No, my goodness. Let's get back to the solo overlay. Skip this version. Can I get back? Oh yeah, there we go. Apologies. We're late in the video, and we figured it out. I just flashed everything a Boston Celtics picture. I also run Celtics Digest. Anyway, beside the point. But yeah, so regardless, this wasn't the best game from some of the Habs stars. Caufield didn't look that great tonight. Nick Suzuki had kind of a stinker relative to normal performance. Mike Matheson, while scoring a goal, maybe didn't show up great on the metric sheet. Sean Monahan, that third old man line, so they were calling it during the game. Of course, talking about Tanner Pearson, how he came over from Vancouver as well in that DeSmith trade. Didn't do so great, but At the same time, Slafkovsky finally showed out. Does it mean something that he's showing out when his teammates are not necessarily showing out? No, I don't think so. I think it's good. I don't think it's a negative thing that those coincide. I think Slafkovsky is finally finding his game. I think he's finally getting used to the NHL pace. I mean, as we've said this whole season, he's getting better night by night. After his hot start to the season, for his game or two, he slowed down, started making some mistakes, but he's climbing back. He hasn't shown up on the score sheet, but as Coach Marty said, I think Slav's playing well, and I think the numbers are going to come based on what he's doing, so all we got to do is wait, but you know what? 5-2 loss, you can eat it after beating Boston in yesterday's game, coming in playing Vancouver, one of the hottest teams in the NHL. You can accept the loss. All we can do is move on to the next game. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. You know how it is here at Habs Digest. We love the support you've been showing us. And our next goal is 10K. So if you haven't hit subscribe, hit the button. Send this to someone who you think might enjoy our content. We love for them to hit that button too. I've been your host, Josh Gosse. I'll catch you in the next one.